Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us your Saturday evening. And today we have Havovi Bhagwagar with us. Havovi is a clinical psychologist in Bombay, in Powai, and she runs her own clinic by the name Manashni. She is an award-winning psychologist, to say the least. She is also currently pursuing her PhD from TIS in trauma counseling. Is that true?
Secondary
Not
trauma, yes.
secondary trauma. Okay. Not many know that she's also a trainer. She trains with the corporates. She's also trained a lot of nurses and hospital staff in counseling. She's an expert in, of course, bipolar. She's part of the Bipolar India support group. PTSD में and trauma work में वो भी माहिर है. And I am a huge fan because I really look up to Havovi professionally and the things she does and how sorted she is. So thank you so much, Havovi, for coming and speaking on bipolar through the Mind Life project. Havovi ने हमारे साथ पहले भी programs किए हैं and I'm sure Havovi आगे भी करती रहेंगी. So thank you so much and welcome, Havovi.
Thanks, Snigdha, once again for having me on this platform. The last talk we did on PTSD, there was a lot of people who wrote back and who got back to me, asked me many questions even after the live.
Yes.
So I think it was very enlightening. Partially it's because we have a very good interviewer who does a lot of research and comes in.
I don't know, because it's my passion. I really want people to educate themselves, and being a mental health professional myself, I think it's my responsibility to cater to that need. Especially there is so much of misinformation and stigma around mental health. So why not?
Yes.
It's very
I
important.
think it's very important, very, very important to have these talks, not just generically on mental health, but also on, like you did for last time on PTSD, then this talk on bipolar, which I think has been pending since so long, and I'm so happy it's finally happened. And I think it's very important to educate people in very simple terms about not just generic mental health, but also about disorders. Because you can go online and read up, but often you don't know what sources to read from.
Yes,
and very often words that come and hit your mind sometimes carry a different weightage.
Yes.
But when you hear someone speak from experience, either lived experience or then clinical experience, it makes a difference. That's what I think.
Yeah. So I like that you've said lived experience. So as a therapist myself, now a lot of people know. पहले किसी को पता नहीं था कि मुझे 2-3 साल past में depression रहा है. The first time I met you, I had depression.
So now I know from what I read and heard. Yes.
Yes. तो बहुत लोगों को पता नहीं होता है, and the idea that किसी को भी हो सकता है. हमेशा एक हमारे अंदर धारणा होती है that हम ही नहीं, ये पड़ोस वाली की प्रॉब्लम है, हमारी नहीं है. So quickly, Havovi, can you just in very simple terms explain to our viewers the difference between generic mental health and illness?
So generic mental health is about just like it is generic health. Yeah, we all want to keep healthy and stay healthy. We do physical exercise, we eat good diet. Our nutrition is important to us.
Yes.
We make sure that our bodies are well assessed, so we go for tests and various other things yearly. Yes. Mental health is just like that. We need to stay healthy, we need to stay resilient under stress. And it's a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, we may have people who have mild adjustment problems when they are stressed out. And then you may go right up to the other end of the spectrum where a person is not able to handle stress or is not able to handle triggers in their life. They may develop a condition because of that, or because they have a predisposition already chemically. That's when we have a mental illness. And mental illness typically will come with a set of symptoms. It may come with a brain or a chemical imbalance. It may require assessment by specialist doctors called psychiatrists. And intervention of medication as well as intervention of psychotherapy.
True. So bipolar, of course, is one kind of mental illness. Would you like to elaborate on what exactly is bipolar disorder?
So we have a variety of mood disorder. Bipolar is one of a mood disorder. Mood disorders is when our mood is either very low or very high. To put it very generically and in very, very simple terms. My
Hmm.
bipolar is much more than that, of course. But
Hmm.
we do know that the condition is underdiagnosed. We do know
Hmm.
that it is a condition that's under-recognized. It's also a condition that is sadly, instead of being normalized, it becomes the talk of many memes and a lot of undervaluing of this condition. But it's a very serious mental health condition. We
True.
know that approximately 9 million Indians have this disorder, but we also
Okay.
know more than 50% of them don't receive help, don't step up for help, are never diagnosed.
Hmm.
Bipolar is not easy to diagnose. It's not easy because when a person comes in, they often come in with depressive symptoms.
Okay.
And psychiatrists, as well as their family members and the client themselves and the patient themselves, are not always aware that they may have an underlying bipolar disorder.
Okay.
So they may be getting treatment for depression, and then
Hmm.
they may develop an episode of mania, in which case that's when bipolar is diagnosed. Now, when does
Okay.
that episode of mania happen? Does it
Yeah.
happen immediately following the depressive episode? Does the person stay many years or many months without an episode of mania and is continue to viewed as someone who has major depressive disorder? This is how the condition typically unfolds in clinical reality. Now,
Okay.
just to give people an idea of what is depression, what is mania, because I'm using these
Yes.
terms.
Yes.
Depression, a lot of people are aware about. It's when the person has very low mood, low energy, a lot of negative thoughts. Sometimes depression is very obvious. The person is so non functional that they cannot leave bed, they cannot perform the tasks of daily life. Yeah. Their mood is so sad, they're crying all the time. Yeah, I can see that on Snigdha's face. So you relate to that. Um, and often bipolar depression looks like major depressive disorder. There are some
Hmm.
mild differences, yeah. But typically, when there is bipolar depression, there will usually be either manic or hypomanic episodes.
Okay.
So a manic episode is when a person feels very grandiose, the high,
Hmm.
right? They will talk excitedly. They can sleep just 2 3 hours and they are fine. They get easily distracted. They come up with these grand schemes about things that they need to do.
Hmm.
They get expansive in the way they talk. They talk a
Hmm.
lot. They talk
Yeah.
excitedly. They look like they're very goal directed.
Yes.
It's like they're taking tasks and they're just taking them up one after the other. They look so productive. But they look agitated. They may
Hmm.
also have angry outbursts during an
Hmm.
episode of mania, and
Hmm.
sometimes they may also have episodes of psychosis where they may hear
Hmm.
voices or they may have delusional thinking, which typically uh, passes over or moves over once the correct medication is started.
Okay.
Now, one of the ways to think about mania is think about the best day you ever had, and then
Yeah.
think about it 100 times as high. That's
Yeah.
how mania feels. But
Yeah.
apart from mania, there is something called as hypomania.
Hmm.
So, a manic episode is one where, like I said, all of these symptoms happen. In hypomania, they happen, but they happen at a milder and let's say, less obvious
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
person may just look very productive, very agitated, a little angry, a little
Hmm.
offbeat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what happens in hypomania. You were
Okay.
asking something, Sita?
या आई वांटेड टू से जब हम ग्रैंडियोसिटी जैसा शब्द यूज करते हैं या ग्रैंडियोस की बात करते हैं ये टिपिकल टिपिकल फीचर होता है ऑफ मीनिया
Hmm.
व्हाट डज इट रियली मीन बिकॉज उसके मतलब उसको उसको देख सकते हैं हम उसको समझ सकते हैं उसमें एक कुछ तरीके की बातें होती हैं कुछ तरीके के विचार होते हैं जो इंसान में आते हैं एंड अगर हम ध्यान दें तो हम
Hmm.
समझ पाएंगे कि वो क्या होता है वुड यू लाइक थोड़ा सा इलैबोरेट करेंगे
So grandiosity is the person has had a, fairly, let's say, stable thinking or down to earth plateau-like thinking and
हम्म
talking, and then suddenly starts grandiose ideas such as I want to open a business and
हम्म
I want to set up a business, or I'm thinking I'm going to put up this much money and fuel it into some new line of some ideas that I have,
हम्म
or a feeling that it's all right. I don't need more than 2 hours of sleep. I want to finish this, this project, and I need to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours, 14 hours a day. I can exercise 2 hours at the gym now, right? Or suddenly eating a lot. That also happens sometimes in manic episodes. A suddenly active social life.
Yeah.
Person is, just going out a lot, meeting a lot of people, is taking up more work than they ever took up. So these are episodes where there is a sudden high energy from a particular plateau. In manic episodes, it's very visible. In hypomanic episodes, it's not all that easy to make out.
Okay.
And that is why when we have bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, the differentiation between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is the manic episode. So in bipolar 1, the person has major depressive episodes and one episode of mania.
Okay.
Typically, a manic episode will require mood stabilizers, will require psychiatric intervention, along with, of course, the depressive condition. But in bipolar 2, the person has longer phases of depression and hypomanic episodes, multiple
Okay.
hypomanic episodes,
Just
which could be either preceded by or followed by the depressive
just
episodes.
1 second. Sorry
All
for the
okay?
disturbance. Yeah, yeah. My laptop was heating up because it was kept on another laptop. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, all okay now. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
how
stable
should
now.
yeah, it's okay now. So how should how should a layman who has no
Hmm.
understanding of mental health, mental illness, कभी उसको समझ ही
Hmm.
नहीं है कि mental illness जैसी भी कोई चीज होती है, but उसके
Hmm.
अगल बगल आजू बाजू
Hmm.
somebody has this issue, क्या आइडेंटिफाइंग फैक्टर्स होते हैं, क्या ऐसी चीजों को वो बिल्कुल दिमाग में रख सकते हैं क्योंकि ये है तो मतलब कुछ गड़बड़ है एंड bipolar है या whatever, not to diagnose but just to understand.
So we typically see if a person is having mood swings.
Hmm.
So family members come to me and say, "Hey, my wife is having mood swings, or my parent is having mood swings. Do they
Hmm.
have bipolar?" It's not easy either for them or us to make out,
Hmm.
right? Identifying markers in bipolar are so subtle sometimes that unless the person is in a full-blown manic episode, we can't say, yes, this is bipolar disorder. But
Hmm.
through research, we found some of the things that are important to recognize. Normal mood swings, say how say bipolar is different, is that bipolar moods last longer, they're harder to change. So if the
Okay.
person is having a depressive episode for a long period of time, or is having a hypomanic episode that doesn't seem to abate, right? Some of us are in a good mood some days
Yeah.
and we want to do a lot. We have energy, but वो dissipate हो जाता है.
हाँ.
Sometimes, we are on a high because someone's given us a compliment or we've done
Yeah.
well. So there are
Yeah.
obvious triggers outside, good and bad events that make us feel either down or make us feel up. But
True.
bipolar moods are not really related to good and bad events. They are chemical
Hmm.
imbalances finally, so they may just arise out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Sometimes they are linked to these external events, but not always.
Hmm.
Also, bipolar moods cause disruption to the person. In the
True.
sense, in a hypomanic or a manic episode, they may overspend to the extent
Yes.
that I had a client who almost went bankrupt because he bought
Hmm.
so many things in an undiagnosed hypomanic episode.
Hmm.
And what happens is that medications are very, very, how should I say, they are very important, but also doctors have to be very careful because if an
Hmm.
antidepressant is given and the person is bipolar, the antidepressant itself may lead to an episode of mania or
Hmm.
hypomania. So,
Hmm.
which is why doctors take a lot of care in knowing the history. Is anyone in the family being diagnosed with bipolar? Has there been, episodes of mania that may have been missed out in the history? So,
Hmm.
which is why if the family suspects, the right thing to do is always to go to a mental health professional.
True. True.
Okay?
हाँ आप बोलिए आप बोलिए.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so you rightly said that in your earlier answer, Habubi, that there is a plateau in which a person normally functions, and where when you see that, of course, there is a spike in that, and the spike is considerable, and why I'm pinpointing this again is so that you can answer the timeline. जब हम मेनिया
Mhm.
या हाइपोमेनिया की बात करते हैं या एक डिप्रेसिव एपिसोड की बात करते हैं, तो वो कितने दिन रहता है या कितने घंटे रहता है या कितने महीने रह सकता है, आई थिंक वो भी जानना थोड़ा सा जरूरी है.
Hmm. That's a really good question. Typically, if you look at the markers, diagnostic markers, it should last at least 2 weeks. Yeah, by which time the person will have definitely done a lot of activities which would have caused disruption around if it's a hypomanic or a manic episode. If the person is depressed, then there would have been lots of missed work days, there would have been that productivity. People around that person would have started noticing something is definitely wrong. Yeah. Maybe the person has just become very quiet, does not want to leave the home, or is just able to function their daily life or their daily routine with lot of effort. Yeah. So if this kind of a mood is visible for 2 weeks, close to a month, definitely you need to seek out a mental health professional.
Okay. Okay. I like how you use the word disruption. जो जनरली लोग नहीं समझ पाते हैं that it's not something आपके जो रेगुलर लाइफ है उसमें डिस्टर्ब करती हैं ये चीजें आप. और तो एज अ आई थिंक एज अ केयर गिवर या एज जिसके घर में कुछ है या अगर आपको खुद को भी लग रहा है कि कोई प्रॉब्लम परसिस्ट कर रही है, नॉट जस्ट अबाउट बाइपोलर जनरली, वुड यू इज इट ओके टू से दैट कॉन्सेंट्रेट कि आपकी लाइफ पहले कैसी थी और अभी उसमें सडनली क्या चेंज आ गया है जो आप नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, राइट? प्रोडक्टिविटी में आपकी क्या असर डाल रहा है, आपकी रेगुलर लाइफ में क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, राइट?
इनफैक्ट जब when you go to a psychiatrist, you were asking?
No, आप बोलिए.
So when you go to a psychiatrist or you say like you've landed up at a psychologist initially, they will ask you these very questions, right? Because पहले तो assessment करना पड़ेगा whether this is really an illness or is this just a passing phase, as a lot of people say. As I told you, bipolar is not the easiest condition to diagnose. It takes a little time for the mental health professionals also to understand. Yeah, but they will typically ask you some of the most important questions, such as how long have these moods lasted? Have you had them before ever? Yeah. What are the things you could do previously which you're not able to do right now? What is the impact of these moods on other people in your environment? Have there been, apart from family and friends, have there been workmates or work colleagues who have been giving you feedback that you're not really, functioning the way you used to function earlier? Then often when we are taking the history, we realize that the person says, this something similar had happened to me earlier on, but it went away on its own. And I just suffered through it. I thought it's a passing phase. तब पता चलता है they have actually gone through an episode of mania or they have had hypomania or a depressive episode. But because we know that the Indian, the ethos describes the condition of mental health and its recognition is so poor in the country, they don't even reach out or don't even think that this is something that needs help. So a very careful history taking has to be done when it comes to bipolar disorder. That's when you gauge, you have an idea, but you still proceed with a lot of caution when it comes to medication initially. That's what most doctors do.
Okay, but is it treatable? Is bipolar treatable?
It's a very tricky question because if I say yes to that, then it's not completely the truth. If I say no to that, a lot of people feel really, really dejected and scared and panicky and anxious. So I always answer this question by asking people, go and read up about diabetes. Is it treatable? If you read up about diabetes, you know it is not, right? Most people are not aware that there is no cure for diabetes, and we have made so much medical advance. Still, there's no cure, but it's a condition that's manageable.
Yes.
Correct? If I have diabetes, I'm taking my correct medication, I'm going for walks, and I'm eating the right kind of food. If you take my sugar right now, my sugar is normal. Does it mean I'm not diabetic? It doesn't mean I'm not diabetic. It means I'm still diabetic. I have a propensity for it. If I stop doing all the good things, if I stop taking my medication, my blood sugars will again get high. It's exactly the same with bipolar disorder. The more healthy a life you lead, the more adherence you keep to your medication, the less substances you consume, the more you organize your life and center it around self-care, mindfulness practices, a little yoga, writing your thoughts down, taking the help of psychotherapy, visiting your psychiatrist regularly. You'll be fine. It won't be visible, but it's not like it's not there.
True.
So to answer your question, it's not. It's a condition you have to live with your entire life. It's a condition you need to manage.
Sorry. Thank you. And to add to this question, I'd like to ask you. You said that, of course, it is manageable, and there is a combination of multiple things that it needed, and one of the combination is of pharmacology or psychiatric
Yeah.
health and medication and psychotherapy, right? So
Mm. Mm.
how does one balance that? How does one understand the importance of either? Uh, कि दोनों में से क्या जरूरी है, क्या करें क्या नहीं करें, कुछ एक छोड़ दें, कैसे करना चाहिए? How should one make that decision? What is the ideal
In
combination?
so bipolar disorder is a biochemical condition, and psychotherapy is not always the first line of treatment.
Hmm.
Okay, it's not an adjustment disorder. It's a condition that can be kept in control only with medication.
Hmm.
So if a person comes to me with, say, he's having anger with his workmates,
Hmm.
and after sitting with him and talking to him, I start getting the inkling that this person is having hypomanic episodes.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's also spending excessively, he's talking grandiosely, he will not stop talking in session. He's having rage outbursts everywhere, not just with one or two workmates. If I start suspecting this, even the smallest of doubt, even though he's come to me with so-called only anger problems at the workplace, he will immediately be given a psychiatrist reference. I
Hmm.
will have a psychiatrist, look and give the person a proper, thorough evaluation. We will also perhaps do some psychometric evaluation with that person. Then we will be able to come to a conclusion whether that person has a bipolar disorder or not. So,
Okay.
as a psychotherapist, I won't say always my psychotherapy is the first line. If there is bipolar disorder, psychiatry, medication is the first line of action. If the person has got bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, they need to be on medication. Some
Okay.
of the worst stories that I have encountered with this condition has been when people have gotten off the medication. Usually during hypomanic states, the person feels good. No? If you
Huh.
were productive, I was productive. If I could do the things that I could do in 12 hours in 2 hours,
Yeah.
why will I feel I need medicine? So I go
Hmm.
off the medication. The problem happens when they go off the medication. No? Then a depressive mood sometimes comes in immediately afterwards. When they
Hmm.
have made promises to 10 people, they have overspent, or they have overpromised, or they have put their money into various schemes which they don't know whether they'll work out or not. So the
Hmm.
problem happens when you get down off the high.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge problem for the family, for the person, for then the doctors, because they're
Hmm.
grappling with not just the illness but all the mess that's been created
Hmm.
in their ecosystem.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
is why medication adherence is paramount, and the more medication adherence there is lifelong, the more healthier and quality of life is much better. The
Okay.
person can do all the things that they want to do.
Yeah. So would it
And
be
so
okay
most
that
of the time, yeah, yeah.
no, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
In fact, most of my time in psychotherapy with a client who may be diagnosed with bipolar 1 or 2 is helping them understand the importance of medication and
Yeah.
working with the negative beliefs they have around taking medication.
So, would it be okay to say, and this I'm saying in continuation to the last statement that you made, that adherence to medication, of course, is very important, and that's one of your goals of therapy. That when you work with your clients who have bipolar 1 or 2, that lowering their stigma and their reservation to medication. And just as we have other illnesses, other physical illnesses where we manage that illness lifelong through medication, this is another illness where you have to take medication lifelong in varying degrees, and of course psychiatric treatment is the first line of treatment along with psychotherapy. A lot of the people again often ask कब तक ट्रीटमेंट चलेगा, कब तक साइकोथेरेपी चलेगी. Some people find it very expensive, दोनों चीजें साथ चलाना. Dava
Yeah,
sometimes is still be affordable, but some people really think that the psychotherapy is very, very expensive.
yeah. Psychotherapy is expensive. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And many times clients find they cannot do both.
Hmm.
And I find often that this is a question that is very difficult to answer, but the answers to that don't lie in making psychotherapy affordable, but in increasing the number of psychotherapists available to people.
Yes.
The number of psychotherapists we have are primarily in private practice today. Very few are really working with the public sector,
Yes.
and even fewer are working with the government sector. So, as a result of that, patients don't have the option of a
Yes.
wide variety. Like we don't have an NHS here that will provide you free access to psychologists, psychotherapists, at a very low cost or at a reduced cost. So that is the reason why psychotherapy is perceived as expensive. Even if we increase the number of psychotherapists, there will still be some portion of them in private practice who will charge the amount they are charging because they have to run that private practice. It doesn't run bijli pani ka kharcha bhi nikalna padta hai, as they say. But the fact of the matter is that this is more, I would say, a macro issue, and the solution to this, unfortunately, at this point of time, doesn't cannot be short term. It has to be something we have to look at a more long term. However, we should not lose hope. For many patients are not aware that there are still free services available. Even psychotherapists like me in private practice do a number of pro bono cases.
Yes.
So I set aside a lot of time every week, which is meant only for my clients who pay nothing.
Yeah.
I do free service for them, and that is available. But a lot of people have that assumption in their head that therapy means so mehenga, so they don't even
Ah,
question or ask. Places
true.
like IPH are there in Mumbai city, which ask students, for example, to show their ID card or then their
Hmm.
salary slips of people who are working.
Yes.
Accordingly, provide them with services. So things are available. Sometimes it's a question of whether a person is looking for it and
Yes.
is got access to those resources.
Yes. So it's a systemic problem. Like I always say that
It's a huge systemic problem.
इंडिया में mental health treatment gap जो इतना huge है, it is a systemic problem both in terms of course the service, the education, the training, everything. तो वो I think एक long term solution है जो धीरे धीरे जाएगा hopefully.
Dile, and I think it's happening because if
It
you
is.
see even the progress we made in the last 10 years,
It
it's
is
been
massive.
massive
It's massive.
in the field of mental health. So there's always good things to look forward to.
Yeah, true, true, true. But having said that, what must friends, family, and peers do to help someone who has bipolar disorder?
So let's say a person has been diagnosed with bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, right? Every time they have a proper episode, a mood episode, it's very important that the family and friends start being the rock solid support that is required, because the caregivers are oftentimes the difference between adherence to medication, recurrence of episodes, leading quality of life. Caregivers play a huge role in bipolar disorder. So I think that the most important thing is helping. Let's speak from the viewpoint of a depressive episode.
Hmm.
So helping them stick to a routine, for example. During a
Hmm.
depressive episode, it is very difficult for a person to have a routine,
Hmm.
to do the things of normal daily life. So helping them do that. Unfortunately, a lot of family members get stuck there only.
Ah.
So they feel that if the person is eating right, sleeping right, was ho gaya. That is the end
Hmm.
of depression.
Hmm.
But even if the person's routine is fairly regular, there are lots of other things they need help with. Like depression is like a fog in the brain. You can't even decide, okay, shall I wear this today or shall I wear that? Am I supposed to eat lunch at this time or should I just not eat lunch at all? Or should I get up and go to work, or can I just sleep the whole day? It literally descends like a fog on the head. So the family can help them with setting those small little goals that will help
Goals.
them, to get them a little bit active. The family needs a lot of patience. They can't take over the person's life. They have to work with the person. You know,
Hmm.
the family may be coming from a place of completely never having seen a depressed episode ever in their life. So
Hmm.
difficult to understand, therefore, what is a person going through.
True.
So to encourage them gently, to be very empathic, not to make very insensitive statements like "Ye khatam ho jayega, snap out of it, you're just moping around, keep a cheerful face." Those kind
Ah.
of things should not definitely be done, because sometimes families also use that depressive phase to get back at the patient when they
Yeah.
had the manic episode or the hypomanic
Hmm.
episode, which is again something I educate caregivers that because a person's energy is down, it doesn't mean that they have to be treated badly.
Yeah.
So a lot of education is required sometimes during And I think family members have to really draw into their wells of patience and their own self acceptance, their own self care to be able to provide that to somebody with bipolar disorder. During
Oh,
episodes of mania and
yeah.
hypomania, caregiver support becomes even more important because during the mania and hypomania stages or mood episodes, the person may actually use the family money in a
Hmm.
in schemes, right? Putting the family completely at risk. So it's very important. For example, I always teach people in my clinic something called the 2% feedback rule. That
Okay.
means if the patient with bipolar disorder is coming with his grandiose scheme, this grand
Hmm.
idea that he will invest the money in so and so thing and it's going to show returns in 2 months. So I
Huh.
asked that person, go and speak to two trusted people about this. Speak
Hmm.
to person A, person B. If both people tell you the idea is good, then let's move forward cautiously.
Hmm.
So usually most of these ideas will not have that much of backing no? Because so much research has not gone into it. It's pretty impulsive.
Hmm.
So then they get, they are able to keep their impulses in control. Wallets, credit cards, money, bank accounts, all of these things have to be carefully managed by family members during episodes of
Hmm.
mania, hypomania. Because
Hmm.
the person, remember, is in a place of chemical imbalance. They don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing. The brain is just giving them
True.
false signals. So the
True.
family has sometimes to be educated to keep those things in mind.
Hmm.
In hypomania stages, the person may just say, "Don't irritate me, get out of the way. Can't you see how productive I am? And I don't need a
Yeah.
stupid medication." Typically, they will say things like that. The family members have to be educated to let them
Uh-huh.
continue with the medication.
Okay.
Typically, I will lose my client who has been adhering with me for psychotherapy during phases of hypomania because they don't feel
Okay.
they need help.
Hmm.
So I have to establish that trust with them also as a therapist that these episodes will happen. Please return, come back, and we'll work through it. We'll go through it. Yeah.
What
So
about?
hypomanic state.
Sorry. Sorry.
Go
Please
ahead.
go. So
No, no, go ahead.
I was asking, what about psychoeducating the family and the primary caregivers and the peer network, or some kind of a support group or support system for the caregivers because it's very emotionally draining as a caregiver. It can be very exhausting.
It's very, very exhausting. I had read a research study which was done. It was a qualitative research study done just with caregivers of bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And one of and there were some themes that emerged from that research study which says that caregivers of patients with bipolar feel they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't know, they don't know how to be able to approach somebody with this issue, and
Yes.
there's a lot of burnout among caregivers.
Hmm.
So, support groups you were talking about, we know that Bipolar India is one such support group
Hmm.
in India. It is a support group not just for people with bipolar, but also their families.
Okay.
So they have regular conferences. There is a WhatsApp group where all of the members are together. A Telegram group, of course, right now. They
Okay.
have monthly peer support meetings. So
Okay.
the family members as well as the community, bipolar community can join this. They can join
Okay.
from anywhere in India, anywhere in the world, in fact, if they are willing to.
That's very
It is
nice.
run by somebody, yeah, it's run by somebody who himself is diagnosed with bipolar, has a lived experience of it, has written books on it.
Yeah.
So it's something if any viewers who are watching right now suspect a family member may have it or already have a family member living with it,
Hmm.
I would request you to really reach out and join Bipolar India. That will help a lot of people. And I think there are support groups even online that are helpful and useful, but they are of course not as personal sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, you
Hmm.
know, since a lot of it happens online. But yes, coming back to your question, caregivers need a lot of care themselves. They can burn
Hmm.
out very quickly. They are at high risk for substance abuse, for depression, mood disorders themselves.
Hmm.
So they have to take a lot of self care.
True, true. What are some of the self-care tips that you would like to give to a caregiver, apart from, of course, joining something like a Bipolar India peer group? Anything specific that they can really do to take care?
I think for caregivers, it's very important that they don't take on the person's problems as their own because
Mm-hmm.
their well-being is very, very important. Like a
Hmm.
lot of caregivers often find it difficult to delegate. They,
Hmm.
they want to take, they care so much for the family member with bipolar that they don't want to delegate tasks of their caregiving to anyone else. So as a
True.
result, I have seen that they can never switch off. They're
Yes.
constantly in alert mode.
Yes.
So they need to take breaks. They need to practice self-care. For example, I had a person who was a middle-aged woman whose father was diagnosed with bipolar. She'd been taking care of him for years now. She would find it
Uh-huh.
difficult to go out and meet her friends, or she'd find it
Yes.
very difficult to go to a family function
Guilt.
because then who will give his medication? Guilt.
Yes.
Who will give his medication? So I had educated her that her guilt is only going to burn her out. It's not going to make him better.
Hmm.
So she would have to, it's very easy to call somebody else and let them take care of him for a couple of hours in a day, and she can go out. So it's very important that they work with all these things. They understand boundaries. They understand that there are government schemes that can help them. They can
Mm-hmm.
form their own network and social group. They don't have to get isolated from
Mm-hmm.
the environment outside. And they are also human. So there are times when they'll have outbursts. They just not be able to handle the mood swing that the person is having in that
Yeah.
particular day, and that's okay. They have to just learn to be able to be human. I think that's the
Yeah.
most important thing. But I wish there was more organized self care for this group. I really wish there was.
Maybe.
Mm.
Maybe near future. Let's
Maybe.
see if we can do something. Let's see. Yeah. What about
Yeah.
alternative healing and alternative medicine and alternative ways of treatment? I mean, they've existed in India for a very long time, but can they really help, or they do more harm than help actually?
So the bipolar peer support group that I was telling you about,
Hmm.
since I'm also an active member there of that support group, I do see that a lot of questions come from members about this.
Hmm.
That should we take to alternate forms of healing,
Hmm.
and should we give up medication? Many of them also see that they gave up medication and they took an alternative form of healing, and then they were fine for XYZ amount of time.
Yeah.
But as I always say, none of these are researched forms of treatment.
Hmm.
So I always caution people who come to me that please continue your psychiatric medication. But along with that, you want to do something else on the
Hmm.
side. Go ahead and do it. Try, because everything is palliative. No? It's finally it
Yeah.
may have a preventive role. It may just balance the body chemistry. We don't know, but I don't know whether all these alternative forms of treatment are helping with the bipolar modes. So
Yeah.
far, we do know certain psychiatric medications like lithium have been researched over and over across decades and have been known to be effective. We do
Yes.
not know about the effectiveness of these medications at all, or these
Hmm.
alternate forms of healing. So we
Yeah.
have to be very careful. And I, for one, am always motivate, push, and work very hard with my clients to make sure they adhere to medication.
Meditation. Yes.
Sometimes
Yeah.
sessions are spent on this.
Yeah, but that brings me to the next question, and that's something which is it's a general question and not just related to bipolar, which is about stigma related to having medication.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, and that's a huge thing. That I see that a
Hmm.
lot in my practice as well. That it's very difficult, and sometimes, as you rightly said, that entire sessions go in helping the client understand and adhere to medication and why it's important. Would you like to elaborate on that? Just the stigma, the myth around it, and it can be, and also it can be very exhausting also for somebody to kind of keep having medication, because it's
Hmm.
medication plus psychotherapy plus behavior management, emotional management,
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. So, yeah, just elaborate on that, please, about the myths and the stigma and the misconceptions about medication.
So I often see that when I'm working with somebody who rejects the idea of medication in their mind,
Hmm.
is often rejecting it because they apply a meaning to it, not because
Yes,
of the medication,
yes,
but because of the meaning that they draw from it. So I wouldn't work on hammering it into their head that they need medication, because I've done that in my
hmm.
early years of practice, and I know that leads nowhere.
Yeah.
Instead, what is the meaning they draw from it? Many times it will follow some themes. If I take medication, I'm weak. If I take medication, others will find out about me and may lose my job. If I take medication, then I'll become dependent on it.
Yeah.
If I take medication, then I will never be able to get off it. And even if I don't have the illness anymore, I'll never find out.
Hmm.
So it carries some meaning for everybody.
Hmm.
Most of it is comes from a negative belief of themselves and comes from certain data they carry from their childhood also. So we
Hmm.
work with that. We work on what those themes are. I use a combination of educating them as well as working with that negative core belief that they have about themselves.
Okay.
And usually, after some time, they're able to understand and recognize that they can have healthy beliefs around medications also.
Okay.
Yeah, for
That's
example,
nice.
yeah, because for example, dependency on medication is often because they have not read up enough about it. Most people think of all medications as benzodiazepines, which you
Yes.
get addicted to. Yeah,
Yes.
which are addictive. There's no doubt about it, which is why most psychiatrists do not prescribe them for long.
Hmm.
And very often these days, I'm seeing psychiatrists careful about their prescriptions of this because they have addictive properties. You and I also pop it once in the night to we'll also feel good. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
want to have benzos. So, but all medications are not that way.
Yes.
There are different classes of medications, right? Mood stabilizers, for example, are required to balance brain chemistry. They work very differently from benzodiazepines.
Hmm.
So educating about this, oftentimes I won't do this. Unless of course the psychiatrist has done their bit and then I need to step in. I send them to the psychiatrist, call up the psychiatrist and say your client is stuck here, is not able to
Hmm.
understand more about the mood stabilizing properties, say, of the medication. Could you
Hmm.
explain that to them a little bit? And that's usually helpful. So sometimes education is helpful. Sometimes
Okay.
it's about weakness of character, which is a negative belief.
Hmm.
Then I help them understand when did they last feel weak. Maybe they were told as they grew up that they're too sensitive or they're too
Yeah.
weak, they cry too regularly. And then we realize that crying that happened, that sensitivity was probably a mood and we
Yeah.
never realized it. Yeah.
True.
So helping them disengage those things, helping them develop a healthier self-concept, helping them recognize their strengths from within will help finally in the long-term adherence to medication. So now
Okay.
I don't burn oxygen in trying to kind of convince them. I just try and get the data from my
Work around the
clients as to
belief.
what is their belief around it. But yes,
True.
the one very important thing is that revealing that they take medication often is dangerous. It's dangerous to them because they are disallowed to do many things. There are
Hmm.
clients I know who have not been allowed to take part in training programs,
Hmm.
who have been debarred from promotions, whose performance appraisals have been stopped midway, or who have not got good performance appraisals because they disclose
Hmm.
about medication. So
Hmm.
stigma is not just in the mind; it's there
Yes.
in society.
Yes.
Again, this is systemic. We need to make these changes across the board. We need to get people to understand that if someone has bipolar disorder and you find out about it today, it doesn't mean suddenly they have become tarnished in some way. They were
Yes.
performing in your company all these years. They were doing a great job. So why is
Hmm.
it suddenly a problem if they are on medication and you discover they are on medication?
Yes.
So I would think we need to make a huge social attitude change around this as well. That will make people feel secure about
Yeah.
having a mental illness.
So anything that you would like to say to employers or HR leaders or somebody in the senior leadership who might just be happening to hear us right now and or may hear us in future about what they can really do to understand and create some amount of compassion and empathy for someone who has a mental illness. And this I'm talking generally for mental illness and need for extra support and empathy and compassion than stigma and that kind of you know sec-
I know
seclusion.
that definitely we know that inclusion has been the way companies are operating these days. It's very
Yeah.
heartening to see that. Whether it is around certain physical disabilities, whether it is about certain incapacity of another kind, companies are trying their best to make employees feel included. Earlier,
Yes.
it used to be quite harsh. They would either lose their jobs or then they'd be given some very menial thing to do in the company just so that
Yes.
the company has their
Hmm.
reputation maintained. So I'd like to reach out to people and say that mental illness doesn't affect intelligence, mental capacity. Yeah. People with mental illness often are on correct medication. If you find or recognize somebody in your office or in your employment has uh, is showing signs of mental illness, do the right thing, call them in, talk to them, encourage them to seek help. That
Sure.
should be the first, I think, role, because oftentimes people spend so much of their daily life in the workspace. They develop a trust, they develop a
Yeah.
mentorship bond with people in the company. So
True.
they can motivate them to be that, to seek help even better than their families sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing I'd say. Second thing is, if someone has a mental illness but has kept it hidden, and by some chance you found it out, and you are in a position of power or authority, please don't use that power or authority against that individual, because that one individual represents sometimes the entire mental health fraternity and
True.
mental illness group. So we need to be very, very sensitive. If you are not sure whether the person can take on extra load or extra work, then ask them directly about it. Speak to the healthcare or the service providers, speak to the
Mm-hmm.
psychiatrist, speak to their psychologist about it. And I think if we have this kind of a 360-degree openness, there can be so much change around just
Yes.
the stigma of mental
Yes.
health and around being diagnosed with mental illness.
Yes, in fact, WHO, in their sustainable goals, the 17
Hmm.
sustainable
Hmm.
development goals that they have, in goal number 3, which is about quality of life and well-being, they
Yes.
have added one of the sub goals is mental health, and especially mental health at workplace.
Correct.
So there are multiple organizations worldwide who are now developing guidelines for
Hmm.
workplaces across the world in about inclusion and investment in mental health, about policy and everything in guideline. I really don't know who from India is part of that working group.
Hmm.
I haven't read about it, but I have read about the what they are doing and the timeline and everything, and it's very amazing. It's amazing, and I just hope that a lot of participation from India does happen, and if that change happens within the policy level from the government.
At the policy level, yeah, with the Mental Health Care Act now, then even the insurance companies, right,
Yes,
making changes. Not all insurance companies, only
not
a
all,
few,
yeah, yeah,
making
but
changes in their policies.
yeah,
Things do change a little bit. People start getting a little more courage about speaking up about the mental
yes,
illness, but it has to be both ways. It
yes,
can't just we can't just keep telling people with mental illness, have courage, speak up,
yeah,
share things. There also has to be a
true,
systemic change and a
yes.
social change. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I think if these things happen at the policy level from the government, we see that okay, even if it is gradual, at least some change will come. And of course,
I
there
would
are,
agree.
yeah, and there are so many other organizations, of course, in India that are working towards it. And I just hope that
Correct.
things become a lot better. Another
It
question
would,
I'm reading from WhatsApp,
yeah.
Bhuvi, because this question has just come to me. Is that
Is it? How are
yeah,
you
just
accessing this?
my WhatsApp phone. मुझे
Okay.
क्वेश्चन आया है
I
फोन
can't.
पे.
Is there some questions here that are coming on our chat?
नहीं, चैट पे अनफॉर्चुनेटली कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहे हैं अभी.
Okay.
Maybe we get more
I think,
questions. Uh,
yeah. Hmm.
later, but somebody sent me a question on WhatsApp, and they've said that they find it very difficult to
Hmm.
disclose and talk about their illness. Just one
Hmm.
person in their family know that they have bipolar, and
Hmm.
they have friends that they know who have mental illness, but they don't disclose it either to the employer or to other friends and family.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
the question is that why don't they disclose it to other people
No,
other
they're
than?
saying I think he's just written it as a statement, but I would like to highlight
Okay.
this that they find it very difficult to talk
Yes.
about their illness and to disclose. And there is a lot of what he's saying is that I do feel a little ashamed because I don't know how people will react and what they're going to say to me. That's what he's.
Yes, yes. That is why
And
Snigdha, with the all this recent brouhaha that was made about the actor's death and the actor's
yes,
diagnosis. I
Yes.
think we have to be so careful about all this in
So
the public domain.
appalling. So
Very, very
appalling.
careful. Yeah, because we know that we carry, each of us carry that responsibility. We are so careful with someone we see on a wheelchair sometimes. Yeah, we get awkward, of course, but we have a little bit of sensitivity in us. However, how about we all read up a little bit about mental health and we start understanding it a little more? Yeah,
True.
we still use words like mental, right? I was just speaking to a very high level, a person in a high level position in politics sometime 2 3 days back, and that person also used the word mental in discussion about some other issue. And I said, my God, I mean, this is still the way it is looked at in India. It's still looked at as mental condition, or
Yeah,
it is
mental
still looked at
condition.
as pagalpan,
Yeah,
mad.
हम नॉर्मल लैंग्वेज में कैसे सब एक दूसरे को बोलते हैं मेंटल हो क्या, पागल हो क्या, you know. Now over a, and I will agree that मैं कुछ साल पहले तक मैं जरूर ऐसे शब्द यूज करती थी, but now over a period of time I've also realized that no, it's not right. It's not right at
Regular
all.
daily, exactly, our parlance has to change. The way we
Yes,
speak in daily life has to change. Our
yes,
approach towards mental health cannot be just restricted to this group of people who are receiving help and group of people who are offering the help. Beyond that,
yes,
there's absolutely no social responsibility. It's
yeah,
each one of us has to take a social responsibility, because remember, finally these things convert to bizarre, bigger problems like suicide.
yes,
They convert to bizarre, bigger problems like crime, and people
yes,
don't even recognize that, don't recognize
yes,
it at all. So I think it's important that the whole, I would say, the way we approach mental health in our daily life has to change, not just
yes.
through, you know, just through awareness campaigns or things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it has to move beyond the clinic and the client patient, client therapist or a client psychiatrist thing, or to just a couple of NGOs doing this work or that work. Is it's general.
Correct.
The, like how you said. Another thing, we have a question dealing with students working in multinational. Okay. Somebody
Mhm.
has written, ma'am, mostly the toxic environment of MNC itself is the reason for mental illness. What can be done about it? How can they be sensitized? Okay.
Hmm. It is true. I won't say generically, but definitely the competition is just bizarre sometimes. It can
Yes.
break an individual's mind. It can make them very prone and vulnerable to a mental health condition. If a person has had a biochemical imbalance or has a predisposition, then and they are faced in a very toxic environment, it can get them to break down. But do we change all this? Yes, we have to. We have to increase collaboration, reduce competition. I sometimes feel that really this pandemic has brought, to light all these issues to the surface.
Yes.
Apart from the economic downfall that's going to happen, we are going to understand that it's collaboration that's going to take us forward, not really competition. And
Yes.
slowly, slowly, those mindsets start changing.
Yes.
We'll see it happening. Like I was reading in the newspaper a few days ago that managers who used to be so feared by employees earlier had suddenly become the go-to people during the pandemic. The
Yes.
people that understand their employees far better than they did before the pandemic, before the
Yes.
lockdown. So maybe we are looking at some of those encouraging changes.
Yes.
Uh, Maybe the COVID situation is going to make that reset button happen.
Yeah.
But apart from, of course, all the magical thinking that I'm putting forward, the reality of life is that we are in a developing nation that is very competitive because it wants to really rise. It wants to use its talents to move forward and
Yes.
get its place in the sun. In doing that, sometimes human life, human mind become the unfortunate, I would say, fallout.
True.
So we have to change the way we are approaching a lot of things. It's not just about making money. We also have to see how we can give quality of life, quality of care to people
Yes.
around us.
True. I
So
think it's about
imagine
it's
among
about
all the crises
humanity,
that yeah,
humane
it's
practices.
about humanity. us learning that the value of human life is far bigger than anything else, I think.
We have another question which says that I had attended a session from a psychic on alternative healing, and the person suggested to not think of bipolar and not take medicines, and I got influenced to stop meds and had an episode. So, आपसे पूछा है, can you please comment on this?
I think the person has already commented.
Yes, he's already commented.
They answered what happens. I don't know how many times. Forget about in a week. I must be hearing this every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Not among my clients, but the calls I get morning to night. कि हम किसी के पास गए थे और फिर उन्होंने हमें कहा था कि ये सारी चीजें जो है वो सब दिमाग का ही खेल है, ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, ये सब मेंटल इलनेस ये सब कुछ है नहीं है, ये सब डॉक्टर लोग पैसे बनाने के लिए करते हैं। तो हमने कुछ जड़ी बूटी खा लिया, या फिर देयर आर टाइम्स आई हैव हर्ड थिंग्स लाइक झाड़ू से किसी ने हमको मारा और कहा सब निकल जाएगा, अंदर भूत है हमारे। ये सब होता है टुडे इन 2020, ऑल दिस डज हैपन. And then either the shock and trauma of going through that entire process, because all these tantar mantar babas, all this thing is very shaking up for a mind,
And not just tantar mantar, not just tantar mantar, वो भी in our NCR या हम कॉस्मोपॉलिटन सिटीज में बोले, ऑल्टरनेटिव हीलिंग प्रैक्टिशनर्स बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गए हैं, एंड मेरे पास बहुत सारे लोग आते हैं, और जैसे यू सेड कि क्लिनिक्स में बहुत फ़ोन आता है कि हम वहाँ गए तो ऐसा हो गया, वहाँ गए तो उन्होंने ऐसा बोला, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, अभी थोड़े दिन तो ठीक था, अभी आई एम फीलिंग वर्स, व्हाट डू आई डू? So they actually call up in a kind of a डरा हुआ, in a almost a panicky situation, and panic not in terms of an anxiety attack, but बहुत ही घबराहट और बहुत ही फिक्स वाला सिचुएशन कि अभी I don't know what to do, I've spent so much of money on this and I seem to be going nowhere.
So, I fully agree with you, Srikda. Sometimes it's very subtle, because a lot of people are practicing in the name of psychotherapy, practicing as psychologists and counselors. They appear to have, proper degrees and things like that. They don't. They appear to have those. They also appear to be polished, well spoken, but they have an idea about mental illness that's not really based on fact or clinical experience.
Yes.
That's usually not based on medical experience either. So they will give the wrong kind of advice. Most of it is centered around motivating the self and, getting in charge, getting your energies properly aligned and all of that. Yeah, do all that. I'm not saying no. If you feel that it's giving you soothing and satisfaction, do it. But also take the right kind of help.
True.
For example, there has been so much written about cancer treatment. There have been people from the alternative healing profession who say 20 sessions of our healing will free you of cancer.
Yeah.
Is it really possible? Is that even possible? So just like that, there is no magic. The brain and body respond in a particular way. Chemicals respond in a particular way. It's not in our control. Whatever has been researched, whatever we know works, why not use it?
Yes.
And why go through so much suffering is what I tell people. You're literally catching your nose like this, rather than taking the shortcut, and just doing things that are researched, that have been known to work with so many people.
So I think इसका सार ये है हमारे लास्ट इस कॉन्वर्सेशन का, that focus and थोड़ा सा read up करें on evidence based therapies and treatment methodologies. कई लोग इस पे ये भी बोलते हैं कि गूगल पे तो बहुत अवेलेबल है और बहुत सारे रिसर्च इस पे भी हुए हैं, तो ये बात सही है कि गूगल पे बहुत कुछ अवेलेबल है, और हम पॉजिटिव बायस के थ्रू ना पढ़ें जो हम पढ़ना चाहते हैं, हम वाकई एक प्रो एंड कॉन करके देखें कि किस पे साइंटिफिक एविडेंस और साइंटिफिक रिसर्च ज्यादा हुई है, एंड नॉट जस्ट कि लिखा गया है या पढ़ा गया है kind of thing, right?
In the early days of my career, now I don't have that signboard. I used to keep a signboard in my clinic in the waiting room. Please leave Google here and enter for your therapy session. So many didn't catch what that meant, and then I used to explain to them. But now I don't. I feel little change has also come. People are aware that everything that they read on Google is not always the truth. पहले तो
Yes.
इतना मानते थे उसको, but people
हाँ.
have become a little, yeah, because there is also the internet has expanded so much.
Yes.
A lot of publications, journals have come online. There's
Yes.
a lot of research material available online, which used to be like secluded inside, textbooks
Yes.
and hard copy journals earlier. So I think that's how
True.
there's more data available, good data, evidence-based data
Yes.
available, as you said, and that's great.
True. Somebody said if we do not have access to good therapists in local town based on experience, how you suggest we encounter this from our hometowns or locations which presents a lack of inaccessibility? That's a very good question.
Yes, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are inaccessibility क्या है? Availability नहीं है. There is absolutely no therapists available. The first thing is if you are in a city that has therapists, you will find them with an online search, or if you call up your local hospital, you will find them. There is so if you're say living in a metro, please don't search for a therapist outside your city. It is always better to have your therapist in
Mhm.
and within the same city.
Yeah.
However, if you're in a non-metro, yeah, you're in a tier 2 or tier 3 city where you have had several bad experiences with therapists, then you can also reach out to therapists online. There are plenty of therapists nowadays offering valuable therapy online. Research a little bit, find out, and trust your own instinct. When you sit with a
Hmm.
therapist or you sit with a psychiatrist or a psychologist, you should be able to get the feeling they understand you.
Hmm.
They are spending time with you. They recognize what you're saying, and
आपका
they are talking.
आपका
Pardon?
connection connection थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो रहा था. I can hear you now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
better
think
now.
you froze up for
It's
a bit.
better now.
Yeah, it's better now. So I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
look for online help,
Yeah.
and
थोड़ा
I
सा
think before the
रिसर्च
pandemic,
भी करें,
बहुत रिसर्च कर सकते हैं and
थेरेपिस्ट के
आजकल
बारे में
काफी
पढ़ें.
कुछ you will be able
हाँ.
to get a lot of people online. In fact, I would say quite a large energy of my day goes in connecting people who call me up to the right therapist. So even
Hmm.
if you read about or hear about somebody online, just drop them a WhatsApp or message and ask. There are lots of people who do that these days.
किसी ने पूछा I had been diagnosed with bipolar and then diagnosed with epilepsy. What is the difference and similarity between two conditions?
So sometimes bipolar does come with epilepsy. Epilepsy is, of course, a neurological condition, and the diagnosis has to be done by either a neurologist. Sometimes epilepsy is has sometimes a psychological basis also. What I would suggest if you came to me for help is asking your psychiatrist, your neurologist to explain both these conditions to you, to also check if they are correlated in any way. Again, your psychiatrist and neurologist will be able to help you understand if there is a connection, and if there is one, if any of the episodes of either one condition or the other somewhere have a crossing point, then your doctors will be able to guide you what to do with that. So I'd say just take all your reports and sit down with your doctors and get a proper idea about these two conditions. Please don't Google.
Yes, please don't.
Please don't Google.
Okay. If okay, just yes, I'm reading your question. If your psychiatrist is not recommending to go for psychotherapy, then shall we go with doctor's advice or go ahead with psychotherapy?
Yeah, difficult question.
Very.
See, a lot of psychiatrists say that psychotherapy is not required. A lot of people, a lot of psychiatrists, especially in bipolar, it's not required because I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? It's a biochemical condition. So psychotherapy ka kya role hai? But there is more than enough evidence. You can read researches as recent as 2019 which say that medication adherence, then the stability of mood, um, psychosocial support is often dependent upon the availability of psychotherapy. People who take psychotherapy find it much easier to manage the condition. Again, that's a no-brainer, right? Because how much will a psychiatrist also do? They
Yes.
can they really wear so many hats at the same time? provide that energy and time. So I would say in any condition whatsoever, the psychotherapy cannot replace psychiatry,
Yes.
but it has to be used in conjunction, definitely for improvement of the condition.
Yeah. This is a question somebody sent me on WhatsApp, and your last statement just actually answered that. इन्होंने लिखा है कि my psychiatrist insists कि मैं उनसे ही therapy लूं. हाँ.
आपको ठीक लग रहा है?
My psychiatrist forces me to take therapy from him.
See, a lot of psychiatrists are trained psychotherapists as well. And let me tell you, some psychiatrists believe that the psychiatry training also trains them for psychotherapy. But I can tell you, many psychiatrists understand that psychiatry does not prepare you or does not train you for psychotherapy training. If your psychiatrist has had some experience with psychotherapy, and you're free to ask them this, I mean, it's fully within your right to ask them this, then then your psychiatrist can also double up as a psychotherapist for you. And oftentimes, the result is sometimes very outstanding because they understand your mind from both the biochemical as well as the psychosocial spectrum. That said, in India, we do not find this combination very frequently. In US and UK, it's very frequent to find the psychiatrist also doing psychotherapy, not so much in the country. So I think the best thing is for you to ask your psychiatrist directly. If you're not getting a good feeling, then you just have to tell them, I'd prefer to take these problems of mine to a psychotherapist. And of course, you can always tell your psychiatrist that there are certain things you don't want to disclose within the space of the psychiatry setup. You'd rather do it with a psychotherapist.
Sure.
So I don't think anyone will question that.
We have another question that I was in a relationship and I told my partner about my diagnosis. It did not go down very well. Any suggestion how to talk to close ones about your condition?
That's something which we didn't cover actually. There's been this misnomer that getting married will cure bipolar. Having a life partner will make the illness stabilize. God knows where these myths came from. But this person who's written and told their partner in a straightforward manner, I'd say just they deserve an applause because it takes a lot of guts and courage to do that. It's the absolutely right thing to do. And please don't carry any guilt, don't carry any regret, don't carry any shame, because if the person of your partner could not handle this, then that's they need to be able to work on themselves for that.
Yes.
You need somebody who you can tell about your condition right from the word go. As soon as you're getting into a serious relationship and considering something long term, it's important your partner knows it's their right. But it is also your right to know if your partner can be with you and support you during the episodes. I'd also say it's important that if you are undergoing active treatment with a psychiatrist and psychotherapist, then your partner go to them and take the information from them and ask them as many questions as they can.
Sure.
A successful marriage begins on trust, and this is such a very important area of it.
Yes. So to conclude our session, Havovi, I am going to ask you about client and therapist confidentiality. How important is it? And under what conditions? And only, those specific conditions can ever the confidentiality be broken, if at all.
So, yes, client therapist confidentiality, the hot topic of today. Very important, Snigdha. It is held sacrosanct. I have spoken about this, I don't know in how many platforms, written about it on how many mediums in the recent times, even in the past. See, when we go to a therapist or to a psychiatrist, we have to give them information about our behavior. We have to give them information sometimes about our past, about our relationships to help our treatment.
Yes.
And sometimes in the course of revealing that material, we can give out information that may threaten our relationships or may threaten our livelihood or may threaten our jobs. So in the entire context of mental health, confidentiality is held very sacrosanct because a lot of information that is provided to either a psychiatrist, psychologist, or any other mental health professional is usually all very sensitive data. So we have to hold it very sacrosanct. In India, we have the Mental Health Care Act, which says that you need to be able to keep client confidentiality. The client usually will, or the patient will nominate a representative, and if at all the person becomes, for some reason, incoherent or is not able to take decisions, then that nominated representative can be given some information about their treatment to help them, right, to help the patient. Now, so in the Mental Health Care Act, confidentiality again comes with a lot of legal weightage. So if the mental health professional breaks confidentiality, they can have a financial penalty, they can have a jail term, they can lose their license. So these are very important things to consider. However, there are certain circumstances under which we break confidentiality. For example, and this is something I write and give my clients. When I give them a services contract, I tell them under these XYZ conditions, that's when I will have to break confidentiality. One is if the client tells me that they are contemplating suicide or they have done some self-harm, then I obviously need to reach out to the family or their who they have nominated as a representative and inform them. I try to do this in the presence of the client so that I'm not doing this behind their back, right? And 80 to 90% of the time, I would do this right in front of the client. The second time that we break confidentiality is if the client tells us they are contemplating harming someone else. They're actively having homicidal thoughts, in which case we of course need to break confidentiality and either inform somebody in their immediate ecosystem or maybe even the legal authorities. So that's the second time that we break confidentiality. So we also need to understand that confidentiality is, I would say, it's sometimes not written and given to a client. It's just verbally spoken. Sometimes it's not even verbally spoken, but it's the client's right to ask for it, for a written statement from their therapist or even their psychiatrist or any organization that they're visiting for mental health care, that everything revealed over here will be kept confidential.
Now, this is an extension to the question, and this is I'm asking personally, how important is it as a therapist or as a counselor to have these written consents, especially in cases like today where we are doing so much of online consultation and not physical consult, in-person consults?
The same things apply, whether it is online or whether it is offline, whether we're having it in the clinic. It's still going to be sacrosanct confidential information. So I would say the same rules apply. Of course, now the signing of the contract becomes a little difficult because we have to do it, via, either a signature that's done by the client and then done by me and shared via PDF reader in some way. But this is still valid, whether it is online or whether it is not online. You still need to get a confidentiality verbal, if not verbal, definitely, preferably written from your mental health provider.
Great. Another
if you're also, before I forget, if the organization is sending you, sometimes organizations through their EAP programs send people out for help, you need to request your organization to show you a copy of the confidentiality agreement. Most of the EAP programs will be signing that with the therapist, but you need to keep a copy with yourself as well.
Okay. So somebody said, I am. Is it okay if it? We're winding down, but I think we just have one last question.
Go ahead, no problem.
Okay. I'm suffering from bipolar condition. How to interact in social situations where multiple people have different emotional states?
Okay, so in social, so I'm guessing by different emotional states, the person says, suppose they are very low or suppose they're feeling very high, how do they interact in social situations? I think you need to be able to have somebody else also with you in these circumstances to give you feedback, a trusted friend, a family member that can let you know whether social situations are going to reject you or not. Oftentimes, people start avoiding social situations because they have a thought in their mind they will be rejected even before it happens. Sometimes they enter into these social situations not recognizing that they are putting themselves at harm or risk. Like I've had clients in the middle of a very a proper grand manic episode, taking a training program, and then talking, in expansive ways, then being asked to leave the room. Then there are people who, in episodes of depression, are, taking on some very important work, which they find that they can't take to completion. So there are a lot of times social support is very important here. Apart from social support, work on your own negative thinking. Sometimes it's your own barriers or blocks to going out in public thinking, oh, I have this mental illness, so if I go out in public, people are either going to mock me, make fun of me, or they're going to reject me, or they're going to find out I have a problem and then gossip about me.
Yeah.
So it may not happen. It may not happen at all. So I would say social support here helps a lot, and working on your own negative thoughts.
Great. किसी ने पूछा है, online sessions and therapists, would they deliver to the same extent as compared to in-person session? Just an experience-based question. If we want to judge if the therapy is working or not, how much of time is a reasonable time? ये दो questions हैं.
Sneha, can you repeat? I lost the audio for a slight bit there.
आप read कर पा रहे हो वो भी? आपके screen पे
No.
right में?
नहीं, there's nothing here on my screen.
कोई बात नहीं. So this is online.
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh yes, now I am able to.
Third question.
Which one are you reading?
नीचे से
from the online sessions and therapists, would they deliver to the same extent as compared to in-person session? This one?
Yeah.
Just an experience-based question, if one therapy is working or not. So the question is whether online sessions and in-person sessions have the same effectiveness. Yeah, same efficacy. When if you'd asked me this pre-COVID times, I'd say no. It has to be all in person. My entire paradigm is shifting in the last 4 months because I have seen complex cases online. I have done very, very deep kinds of trauma work with clients and tried to, work with them because so many people right now are traumatized. There's no way I can say, okay, let's wait till the lockdown ends and then let's work on these difficult issues. Everything is a difficult issue today. So as a result of that, I feel that if the therapist's intent is right, if the connect and bond is good, then I think it can be helped. However, I can say from the feedback I'm getting from my older clients, the ones who have been with me in therapy, say 2 years, in person, they can see that that there's that holding space that they require. They sometimes need that privacy. They also need your therapist to be attentive to the body language. I can only see this much, right? The entire body is not visible to me. So those non-verbal, the things that get missed out. Yeah. So the efficacy in that sense in therapy is of course going to be much better.
Yeah.
Because in that sense.
Yeah, what I've seen that, I lived in 3-4 different cities. So for me, taking online sessions since ages now. Abhi, of course, COVID में बहुत बढ़ गया है. But I think it also depends on the kind of problem that the client is coming with. And
sometimes it does. I would say the same thing, pre-COVID. Now I feel that the range of problems I have seen in these last almost 5 months.
Yeah.
If you had told me a year ago I would be doing this, I'd say that I probably am dreaming. But today, my entire paradigm has shifted. Even in the US and UK, when I'm reading the newer papers that are coming in, research studies that are coming in on teletherapy, they are saying the same thing, that you have to be careful about the way you do it. You can't just do whatever you like. Like there are some people who do not keep their cameras on and then take therapy. If the therapist's camera is not on, you're violating the biggest rule of therapy. So some basics of that nature, then the privacy, the quietness, and me as a therapist knowing what's happening in the client's environment. So if certain parameters are met, I'm sure that teletherapy will work, but it can't replace face-to-face therapy.
Yeah, it can't replace. And why I was saying in certain issues is as long as the client is comfortable with doing
I would say.
teletherapy. If they are really not, and if they really want an in-person session, then I think it's it's important for your relationship with the client and for the sake of their recovery that you ask them to go to another therapist who they're comfortable with probably doing in person, in case you probably just cannot continue. I mean, अगर वो कॉम्प्लेक्स केस है, मुझे लगता है काफी साल से आप हैंडल कर रहे हैं, देन इट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग, बट इफ इट्स अ न्यू केस देन ऑफ
Yes.
कोर्स आपको रेफर कर देना बेटर है, अगर वो बहुत ही अनकंफर्टेबल है ऑनलाइन में.
Yeah, because now what's happening in the pandemic is the flip side to this teletherapy is people believe now they can seek therapists from anywhere. If they're living in Mumbai, they take a therapist in Kolkata. And I spend a lot of time every day educating people that teletherapy is not a permanent thing that is going to happen. People are going to open their clinics at some point.
Yeah.
In-person therapy is going to again restart, right?
Yeah.
Maybe with certain cautions in place, but it will restart. So choose a therapist from your own city and don't use it as a substitute. So that's important also to understand.
But thank you so much, Havovi, for an amazing session. And it's always a delight to talk to you. And I personally get to learn so much from you. हमारा field of काम बहुत बहुत अलग है, but it's always such a pleasure talking to you. And what I love best about conversing with you about clinical subjects is जब आप बात करते हो तो आप नॉर्मल शब्दों का इस्तेमाल करते हैं और जार्गन्स का इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं, सो दैट एंड बहुत क्लिनिकल टर्म्स नहीं यूज करते हैं, सो दैट इट बिकम्स ईजियर फॉर एवरीबडी टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आप बोल क्या रहे हैं एंड व्हाट डज इट रियली मीन, what does an illness mean, what does therapy mean, what does engaging with a therapist mean, so I think that is very important.
I think, Sneha, for that I have to thank every one of my clients. They have been my teachers there. They have hacked out all the jargon from my system and helped me understand how to connect with them with very basic terms. So I would really, even now, if I feel like I'm going into jargon, my clients will correct me and say, but we don't understand this. You have to simplify it. You have to help us understand it better. So when I'm in my mind, every time I'm thinking that if this person had no knowledge at all of psychology, how would I put it across to them such that it makes it easier to understand? Because people switch off, if you're going to use
they do.
terminology. Anyone will switch off. I can see a glazed look on some of my clients' faces. I say, they're not telling me, but I know.
वो होता है. But it's so sad that I speak with a lot of colleagues and a lot of senior people, and it's so sad that उनका आंसर इतना क्लिनिकल और इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड होता है that it almost looks rehearsed. कि आप कोई भी सवाल पूछोगे तो एक्चुअली वो 50 शब्दों का वो पिटारा है जो वो घूम फिर के फिट करेंगे डिफरेंट चीजों पे, एंड इट मेक्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग फॉर अ लेमन वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट. एंड अगर आप थेरेपिस्ट हो तो आप अपने कुनबे की, एंड व्हेन आई से अपना कुनबा आई मीन द थेरेपिस्ट, आप उनके लिए नहीं काम कर रहे हो, आप सबके लिए काम कर रहे हो और ऐसे लोगों से बात कर रहे हो, ऐसे लोगों को थेरेपी के बारे में, मेंटल इलनेस और हेल्थ के बारे में समझा रहे हो जिनको शायद बेसिक्स भी नहीं पता होंगे. तो
एब्सोल्युटली
तो सिंपल शब्दों में बात करना जरूरी हो जाता है.
Many people do not understand the real basics, and here we are trying to explain about a disorder. It's very important to do that in a way that we understand their frame of reference from where they've come.
True.
And actually, the truly scary clients are the ones who know so much that I don't know whether I know as much as they do. I get that lot as well. Oh my God, who come with research papers to the clinic. And then I always tell them, I think I need to brush up my knowledge. Will you please leave this here? Let me revise my material and then I'll talk to you next time.
बट वो तो हमेशा होता है. एंड कभी हम बात करेंगे अबाउट कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज ऑफ अ थेरेपिस्ट क्लाइंट रिलेशनशिप, maybe थोड़े दिनों बाद, and we'll have a focused discussion on that. Maybe if we have a couple of more therapists with us talking about it, and maybe a psychiatrist also, that will also be amazing, because
it would be wonderful.
because बीच में हमने बात करी थी और मैं खुद सिर्फ ऐसे ही साइकियाट्रिस्ट के साथ काम करती हूँ जो थोड़े थेरेपी ओरिएंटेड हैं और जो उसमें विश्वास रखते हैं और उनका जो ओरिएंटेशन है वो उस तरीके का है, अदरवाइज कोई फायदा नहीं है. And it's very nice to see a couple of psychiatrists here viewing our session and commenting on it also.
Okay, you can see this. I can't, but that's nice.
Acha. Dr. Vijay Nalawala is here.
But he's not a psychiatrist. Of
Acha.
course, I think he has enough knowledge that he can be at par with any.
Acha.
He's the person.
I thought he's
He
a
is.
psychiatrist. I mean, I keep reading him and I'm like कि मुझे seriously लगता है
He
कि वो
writes.
psychiatrist है.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Vijay Nalawala is the person who runs the Bipolar India group, the support group that I was telling you
अच्छा.
about. He's
All
lived
right.
with bipolar several years himself. He's
Okay.
written a book on it. He's writing his second book on it. And
Okay.
if so, you just have to Google about Bipolar India, and all the information about the support group is available there.
Oh, that's very nice. In fact, आपने अच्छा हुआ बताया कि हम BCAP के साथ वेबिनार सीरीज करते हैं ना, तो हम काफी लोगों को डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स में हम बुलाते हैं टू कन्वर्स. ऑफ कोर्स वो फ्री टू व्यू है सबके लिए. इट हैपेंस एवरी संडे 11 to 12 इन द मॉर्निंग. तो अच्छा होगा कि अगर हम एक सीरीज ऐसे सबके साथ भी करें जो बता सके लिव्ड एक्सपीरियंस. एंड ऑफ कोर्स हम साइकाइट्रिस्ट और साइकोलॉजिस्ट से तो बात करते ही हैं, तो it'll be amazing. And I think अगर एक ऐसा ग्रुप है जो बाइपोलर इंडिया है, जो इतना अच्छा और बड़ा सपोर्ट ग्रुप है, सो व्हाई नॉट हम उसके बारे में ज्यादा बात करें ताकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग जुड़ सके. We have a great of BCAP series. So I mean, I'm surely I'll speak with you, and I will also speak with Vijay about this. अगर हम कर
I
सकते
think he will add a lot of value, because not only his lived experience, but every day the experience he gets from the peer support, the different types of things that come up there, questions. He has a lot of practical as well as research knowledge. So he would be a wonderful person to have on any platform to speak about this.
Amazing. I sure will. I'll get in touch with him soon. आपसे नंबर लूंगी.
I'll send it to you.
ठीक है. So thank you so much, Havovi, and thanks you everybody who's joined us, and thank you also for those who are going to view this later. अगर आपके कोई सवाल हैं तो of course आप Life Suffers के पेज पे इसको देख रहे होंगे, तो आप मैसेज कर सकते हैं वहाँ पर, and I will direct your questions to Havovi. And in case you know Havovi and you can email her. आपकी वेबसाइट भी है Havovi?
Manashni.com.
Okay, so Manashni spelled as
MANASHNI, Manashni.com. You can leave me a message there. You can also read some of the articles I've written of interest to you, maybe there.
Sure. मैं काम ये भी करूंगी, मैं इसको फेसबुक पे सेव करने के पहले I'll put in your website so that if anybody wants to reach you, they're able to. And also add a link to Bipolar India peer group, peer support. वो भी मैं आपसे ले लूंगी. Yeah, वो भी मैं आपसे ले लूंगी और इसमें डाल दूंगी, so that if anybody wants to approach the peer support, they can do that also.
Yeah? I think that would be very helpful, extremely helpful. Yes.
Sure. And I'm going to keep calling you again for different kind of sessions.
Do. I would be very happy to do this, and I think this talk was very needed. I was just thinking how important it is to have mental health discussions on specific topics like this, as I told you right in the beginning, rather than generic.
जेनेरिक पे बहुत बात होती है एंड बहुत तरीके की बात होती है. मैं खुद भी करती हूँ बहुत तरीके की बात. मुझे हमेशा लगता है क्योंकि मैं क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट नहीं हूँ, सो आई एम नॉट द राइट पर्सन टू टॉक अबाउट क्लिनिकल डिसऑर्डर, सो आई ऑलवेज रिफ्यूज. सो मेरे मन में बहुत दिन से था दैट ओके दिस इज नॉट माय एक्सपर्टीज, बट पीपल आर आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस. आई वुड रादर गेट समबडी ऑन माय प्रोग्राम हु नोज clinical concepts and who will be able to talk better about it and give the right information. मैं अपने ढोल नगाड़े नहीं बजा सकती.
नहीं, but you're doing some really amazing work, and I truly admire some of you're hosting programs. You're also working with students. You're training. That's a lot of work, and please continue to do the good work.
Thank you.
And I really wish I could. Yes, I think they really do.
Yeah. आप कुछ कह रहे थे, sorry, आप कह रहे थे you wish.
No, I said I wish I could borrow your Hindi, because I have to do a show on radio every morning in Hindi, and I struggle for that. For I think for every word, and I was just admiring the flow of Hindi you have. I was thinking, oh my God, I'll just borrow a little bit of Snigdha and take it with me
Oh,
8:30 in the morning.
that's Lucknow. You can't take Lucknow out of my blood. But
But it's
I will,
wonderful to hear you speak in that flow.
या तो लखनऊ से मैं आपको 2-3 चीजें करा सकती हूँ. इफ you're a नॉन वेजिटेरियन तो मैं बिरयानी जरूर आपको खिला सकती हूँ. कबाब भाषा का मुझे नहीं पता.
I don't eat non-veg, but it's okay.
मुझे लग रहा था
Okay.
that you're a vegetarian. I don't know. But
Yeah,
we're going
I cook
off
it, but I
topic.
don't. But we are going off topic, and everybody's hearing. Of course, you're welcome to. As everyone who knows me and if they are listening know that I can blabber forever.
Yeah, me too. But before ending, I'm sorry मैंने आपको thank किया, but मैं फिर भी आपसे ये पूछना चाहूंगी, self care for a psychotherapist. How important is that? Especially in times
Very
like
important.
with
So
increased
my
caseload.
yeah. So my PhD area is on secondary traumatic stress in psychotherapists. So I'm dealing with
अच्छा,
the impact, yes, the impact of trauma that happens to the therapist because of listening to client stories, what is commonly known as vicarious trauma. So I am studying that, and I am talking to the therapists about their own self-care. Many therapists have been telling me that they have to work very hard on their self-care, and sometimes when they don't, they slip up. But I would say that I'm a bad example of that because prior to COVID, my self-care was very poor, except for the yoga I did. Personally, I didn't look after myself. I burn out sometimes, with the number of
yeah,
clients I see in a day. But like I said, the COVID scenario has literally just made me pause and think about the importance of of prioritizing my mental health,
yeah,
of prioritizing my self care, and that flows beautifully into the work I do with my clients. The
yes,
more I look after myself, the more mindfulness I do in a day, yoga, exercise, even getting back to cooking and reading things which were
yeah,
missing from my hectic daily life.
true,
They have just brought me in touch with myself. And finally, what happens to us inside, as I think every therapist will say, flows into the work we do with our
yes,
clients.
it does, it does.
The
There are so
best
many
results
times.
will come. Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many times when I've had very difficult clients and I've not, and it has impacted me. I've taken a break. I have taken a
Hmm.
break. In fact, with the clients and with all the other work that I do, in July, I took a 10-day break,
Hmm.
and I, in fact, took 2 sessions from my own therapist because I was
Hmm.
finding it very difficult to cope. So I
Hmm.
was like, okay, 10 days off. Whatever work I could manage, I was doing that. I didn't, of course, cancel everything. Work was happening, but then I took a pause and I took just together a grounding. I
Yeah.
took that grounding for 10 days. So I do that.
We need to do that, because it's very easy to switch into a cognitive frame. If we are consistently
Yeah,
working with clients, then we
very
don't
true.
feel, we don't engage, we just work from here.
Yeah,
And
true.
then you're not going to get anywhere. And you really
Yeah,
won't see change happen. It's when you
yes,
actually experience and can resonate with a client, that's when the true work really happens.
yes,
That can only happen if you are centered and in yourself.
yeah.
So a therapist's self-care is paramount
Yeah.
to
Any,
their own. Yeah.
yeah. Any message that you would like to give to young therapists? I mean, I'm amazed with the knowledge that the young lot has, and I can say that I train so many of them. So it's amazing with the kind of training and with the kind of understanding they have. But yet, when they step into the actual clinical work that they do, and when they are getting into clinics, what are some of the things? I know I'm going majorly off topic, but it has just come to my mind, so I just want to ask this question, and then we can
No
say bye.
problem.
Yeah.
Maybe we need that biryani because I have to go and cook. So you can
Ah,
parcel some of it over.
I
But
wish. I wish I was
getting
living in Bombay. मैं भेज देती आपको.
but the one thing I tell all young therapists is even if you show an interest for some particular type of psychotherapy work or mental health work during your education years, explore everything after you get out into the real world. Explore clinical work, explore work with industries, explore work with NGOs, explore working with a psychiatrist, explore everything that your educational background allows you, but explore because you never know what you'll really be good at. Take as many courses as you can because get trained in as many various therapies as you can. Expose yourself to as much knowledge as you can. Gather all of that. At some point of time, you'll recognize that it comes in use. Something that I had learned, way back in when I did Father Burke's course, when I was myself a
Mm-hmm.
student. Father Burke, used to run, he's of course long gone now. He used to run a program called a counseling course in
Xavier.
Xavier's
Ah,
Institute. And some of those things I still remember, even if they are in today's world outdated, but they still form the basis of my therapy practice. So I would say just expose yourself to as much as you can. Take the knowledge. Don't stop there though. Keep on practicing. Practice. Go back, learn a little more. Come back, practice. So it should be a combination of training and practice is essential because both belong to different parts of the brain. If you're
yeah.
overloading your right brain with practice, you're not going to feel good about yourself after some time. You have to have cognitive elements come in. So I'd say just expose yourself to everything.
And continued education, of course, is important. Yeah,
Correct. And self care.
yeah, self-care. So thank you so much, Havovi, for such a delightful session and such an informative session. And as I said, making it for the masses.
Yes.
That's very, very important. Thank you so much, and we'll be, of course, in touch. And I will pester you again for some good advice, insightful sessions soon. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Snigdha,
you
for
so
having
much.
me here, giving me this platform. Thank you to all the people who have written such amazing comments. I'm going to take some time to read them. And please do watch. If you've missed this, then do watch it. And I
Sure.
hope you get some knowledge.
Yes, and you can even share this session. It will be available, I think, after 10-15 minutes on Facebook, on Life Surfers Ka
Okay.
Facebook page. So you can share that
Okay.
also. The comments will also stay in the session on Facebook. They're
All
not
right.
going to go anywhere. Yeah. So
Okay.
thank you so
That's
much. Bye
wonderful.
bye. Bye.
I'm
Good
glad we
night.
did it on Facebook. Bye.
Yes,
Good
I know.
night.
I know. It has more reach. So,
Much more reach. I'm glad that we did it. And this was, by the way, this was Vijay's idea.
अच्छा. Okay. Okay. Great.
Yes.
विजय को तो बुलाना पड़ेगा. Okay.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Good
You
night to
too. Bye
everyone.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye.